Hello, everybody. Welcome. Yeah, you like my video, Walter?
That was beautiful. I saw
A little
Nick and a couple other people I recognized in
snazzy.
there. I wasn't in
Yeah,
there though, so
yeah. You will be now. I'm going to keep
okay.
updating it. Yes. So,
I'll do my best.
welcome everyone to our counter story perspective this 23rd day of March. I have to keep
Ah,
checking what day
boy.
it is because every
Yeah.
day feels like
Yeah.
a journey. I
Yeah.
was just
Feels like
telling
100 years. Yeah.
I know. I was just telling my good friend Walter that one day last week, unfortunately, we had the weirdest day in Virginia from top to bottom. We woke up, it was 70 degrees. By 5:30 p.m., it was snowing. And in the middle, we had a horrific shooting here at ODU.
Yeah.
So the entire day felt like an out of body experience. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's every day now. You never know when you wake up if you're going to get snow, rain,
Oh
assault.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here
Ah.
at CounterStory Perspective, we like to audit existing narratives. And the narrative we're going to tack down today is this idea that if a person is running for office, they can only get interviews on NBC and ABC and
Yeah.
CBS. And if they don't get those interviews, then I guess the
Yep.
public just doesn't see them. But my friend Walter Rhein here, if any of you know him, which I'm sure a lot of you do because he's fabulous and he's
Thank you.
out there doing the grind, is that any of us can interview a
Yeah.
political candidate. And what Walter is finding, I think, is that these people are so glad that he's
Oh,
reached out, that they're getting a platform, that they're getting their name and face out there without perhaps having to go through these
yes.
long-standing mainstream media
Oh gosh.
corporations. So, Walter, introduce yourself to anyone who
Oh,
doesn't know you.
Oh, thank you so much, Melissa. I was just reflecting. It's been such a delight. I mean, I knew you from for years on Medium, and then over these last couple years, it's been so wonderful. That's been the silver lining of this whole dystopian nightmare we've been living through is getting to get to know people like you better, and I just really appreciate you. So thanks for all the work you're doing. Yeah, my platform, my Substack is called I'd Rather Be Writing. I have another newsletter called Rise Together where I just get up in the morning and just like unload whatever I'm thinking about. It's like something for people to listen to other than oligarch radio is what I like to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I just lately I've been reaching out to a lot of candidates, and it started I met a woman who was running for Congress at the cultural fair in the nearby city, and I'm just like, hey, I'll talk to you. It's like I'll, around your schedule, flexible, whenever you want to just jump on and get the word out there a little bit. She was like, great. And then from there, I've just found, yeah, you can just reach out to candidates, and what I found is the progressive ones are happy to respond. The
Yeah.
establishment ones don't want anything to do with me. And it's just like, I keep thanking them. I'm like, thank you for being a new generation of candidate that is actually willing to talk to regular people, listen to the things that are our concerns, and the fact that so much of the American public has been indoctrinated to think we're not allowed to talk to our candidates, we're not allowed to push back on the nonsensical things that they say. We have to change that thinking. And the more we encourage other people to engage these candidates and then actually vote for them so that they're in office, we can transform our whole system. And, just as much as the Republicans are anti-democratic, the Democrats do not like these contested primaries, and it makes no sense because when there are multiple candidates running for the same seat, they canvass the district, they get everybody activated, and like even if one of the three gets picked, you don't be results oriented, just go out and run, get those important issues out in the public so people are talking about them, and that's how we transform the narrative of our era. And we desperately need to transform the narrative of our era.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day we're looking now at what the end result is when people don't participate in democracy.
Yeah.
That's really the ultimate. We had a very small special election here in Virginia Beach, and a Republican won. Only 11.8% of voters came out to vote anyway, and of those, he got 62%. So 11% of the Virginia
Yeah.
Beach district got to choose that individual. And I'm sure the other 80% are going to have something to say later down the road when this guy does something they don't agree with. So the idea that democracy is a participation sport, this is something that we
Yeah.
have to participate in from a cellular level, and something that we've been talking about here in Norfolk. So I was sitting out front of my house one day at sunset in the summer. We like to sit out and our daughter plays, and rides her bike and stuff. And a young woman comes around the corner with a clipboard and said, "Are you guys registered voters?" And we said, "Of course we are." And she said, "Great. I'm trying to get on the school board and I need
Yes.
X number of signatures." And I hopped up and I said, "Let's go. I'm going to introduce you to
Yeah.
everybody on the block."
Yeah.
So I went with her, knocked on doors. We got her on the ballot and she got elected and she's now a
Yes.
school board member. And so I
Yes.
talked to her about what that feels like in a pretty smallish community, because we're not a huge city. So what does that feel like if you're an elected representative of any type? And she said, "Well, I can't go to Walmart. I can't go to the grocery store because people stop me and talk to me. But
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's great that they are talking to me, that they recognize that I'm on the school board and they can give me their input directly." So she and I have been, talking. And I said, "I think we need to have a block party. And I think we need to invite
Yes.
everybody in our surrounding sort of neighborhoods that is on city council, that is on school board, that is in any form of elected position, so that people can get to know them
Yes.
face to face." I feel like there was this time, and this was when I was growing up in a smaller town. Our mayor took a walk every morning and people stopped her and addressed city business with her on her morning walk. And so there was a very direct connection. You knew the school board member or the city council member that went to your church or played soccer with your kid. And if
Yeah.
something happened, there was a constant sort of thread of conversation. At the soccer game, you see the city council member, you're saying, "Hey man, there's this weird permitting issue. I can't build a bathroom on my house." And you have this direct
Yeah.
conversation and they know they're accountable to you because you know who they are. And when we lose touch with our elected representatives and we break that connection of community, and you have
Yes.
to just wait until the city council meeting and then go in front of city council and hope they listen to you, it's much
Yeah.
more effective when you catch them at a cookout and you have that connection. What are your thoughts on
Oh
bringing that
gosh.
community
Yes.
aspect back?
Well, you're nailing it. And it's because that structure has kind of been designed to make us not participate and to make us think it's normal to not have representation. I mean, this isn't something that got put in place 3 months ago. This is decades long. They've been
Right.
trying to erode our power. And just like this idea of election interference, you look at the history, and I keep saying, if we didn't teach US history like it was the redacted Epstein files, we would see
Yeah.
that there have been every single election, there's always an effort to rig the election, and
Right.
just the more accountability. It's to the point now where they've forgotten. It's like our representatives have forgotten that they have to share the community with us. You are part of this community.
Yeah.
You have an address, and like this entitlement. And we were just talking about how ICE thinks they can run around without showing their ID and without showing their faces. And it's like, no, you live among people. And it's like, that's why you have to be held to a certain ethical standard. I mean, you're not untouchable because you cover your face and hide your identity. You have to go to a grocery store, and if
Right.
you have to mingle with people, you can't be corrupt because the people have had enough of it. But yeah, exactly like you're saying. And I've been trying to appeal, and you were with me with that one interview with Francesca Hong, who's running for governor.
Yes.
Who isn't
Yes.
she fantastic? Doesn't that just make
Fantastic.
you? It made you so happy just to see a person like that. Like, oh my God,
She's a
yes,
real
please.
person.
Yes. And yeah, you're doing it. And just if we could appeal to more of these creators on Substack to interview people like her. And I keep, it's like Heather Cox Richardson, you're doing great. You got this huge platform. Go talk to Francesca Hong, please. Please. And I don't know if a lot of these guys, the status quo, the big name creators on Substack, are beholden to like the established political system. Is that why they're not doing it? Because I'm certainly on the fringes. Everything I've ever tried to do has been suppressed. Yeah. I mean, that's just you're in the same boat as me. So I'm perfectly happy to talk to reasonable people and discuss solutions like, gee, why don't we reduce the budget of the military by 50%? And then we'll have plenty of money to feed our kids, But
Right.
It's like, that's just out of bounds with like traditional political discourse. And that's what we have to change because the solutions are there. We just prevent ourselves. We censor ourselves from even bringing them up.
Yeah. And I think when you talk about interviewing Francesca Hong, she is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
For everybody that doesn't know, this is a woman who is a bartender who is a current state rep. And because her state rep salary is not sufficient, she's a single mom as well.
Yeah.
She then also still bartends. So she has this very direct connection with people face to face. And now she's running for the governor of Wisconsin. And when we interviewed her, she was leading in the polls. And I asked her if she thought that was a result of the Mamdani effect. And obviously, I think Mamdani has put, he's taken some of the mystique of democratic socialism. There's been this dirty word around socialism for such a long time that even when you tack democratic in front of it, people hear that word socialism and they just get stuck there. And Mamdani has just ruptured the veil on that, I think, and just shown what democratic socialism is in practice. How many of the people that you've interviewed are running as democratic socialists on that ticket?
You know, every single one that I've talked to, I don't know if they are actually affiliated with the party, but every platform has been the same. Like the ones that are willing to talk to me are all, it's like, we have to get universal healthcare. We have to, I'll be talking on Thursday at 1:00. I'm talking with the group, the Courage candidates. They on Substack, they're known as Citizens Impeachment. They're running like 100 different candidates for Congress. And it's just entirely on that. It's like, we're going to impeach this corrupt criminal regime, you know? And we've seen too much. The Democrats, they just voted to advance another one of the completely offensively unqualified nominations. And it's like the Washington Democrats have to be unified in not going along with anything this criminal regime is proposing at this point. And every single time there's a vote, we see 4 or 5 Democrat defections. So we have to reform the Democratic Party. And we do that through the primaries. When our representatives are not representing us, the primary system is there to remove them. And they try to hit us with that's an incumbent and there's so much at risk. And it's like, look, if we have somebody in office as a Democrat who is voting with the Republicans, that person needs to be primaried. That person has to be replaced with somebody who represents us. Because we did that work to get them in office and they've betrayed us. That has to be normal.
I wonder, I'm going to reach out. I've reached out a couple times already, and I know she's busy because this is a major fight that she's picked. But Annie Andrews, that's running against Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, that's personal to me. I've grown up under Lindsey Graham. Like in South Carolina, once you get in office, like we saw with Strom Thurmond, you die in office. They will just reelect you and reelect you. Our governor went off to Argentina and with his mistress and all this absolute nonsense and said he was hiking the Appalachian Trail. And there were plenty of South Carolinians that would vote for him again. I mean, that's just what the people of South Carolina do. So Annie Andrews is picking a hell of a fight with Lindsey Graham there. But with the way he's behaved lately with his he's such a war dog at this point, and he looks insane in interviews. And where do you put candidates this year? Because I think, to me, but obviously you and I think differently than most of the people of South Carolina, because I look at South Carolina and the condition it's in now, the condition of the public schools, the condition of the average income, the condition of women's health care there is absolutely unbelievable. And the laws that they have passed, trying to pass. And now you have somebody like Annie Andrews with a medical background who would most definitely disrupt that for women's health care. What do you put her odds at? If you had to ballpark it?
The prediction business. I'm not even sure the sun's coming up tomorrow, to be absolutely honest. I mean, everything right now, I'm just going to put all my effort into any positive action and integrity I can right now. I would say I have been encouraging every candidate I talk to just be forthright about how they are going to demand recounts in every election they're involved in, because I think our system is completely rigged. I mean, that's not a popular thing to say, but there's quite a bit. And, it's like all the Republicans do is talk about how the elections are rigged, right? They've said nothing else. So they keep saying it. And yet I'm not supposed to say that the elections are rigged. I mean, they're trying to push.
You're a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. I mean, the SAVE Act is election interference. That is a Republican policy. That is their policy. And what I want our Democratic representatives to do is to say, look, we have got a war chest. We are going to litigate and make sure every vote is counted. I don't see why that is a strange viewpoint to have. Just get up and say you will fight for us.
It should be a given,
Yep.
particularly with the amount of tension going on, especially with all of the involvement
Yeah,
of the tech bros at the
absolutely.
beginning of this regime. In the first 4 months of this regime, they put their computers in everything, and we should have a complete accounting of that. And
Yes.
what did Doge do? What data did they get access to? To my knowledge, we haven't
Yes.
had any of that.
And it's so much. I mean, like, election interference is this huge concept. I mean, there's the gerrymandered districts, there's the purging the voting rolls, there's claiming that ballots are soiled, improper counting. So it's just like, it is a complex structure.
Yeah.
I mean, just like having an election is complex. And then you look and it's like, oh, there was a glitch. Oh, it only affected the Democrats. Oh, there were bomb threats. Oh, that was only in Democrat areas. So it's like, there's clear evidence that there are ongoing efforts to interfere with our elections. And so just having some candidates, even if they still lose, say, look, going into this, we are going to have recounts. I don't care if it says that you get 90% of the vote. We're going to do a recount because I have it in my war chest. When I went out for donations, I said, I'm going to defend every vote. Everybody who votes for me, I'm going to make sure that vote is counted. And for some reason, the Democrats are flinching away from this, even though their popularity is at an all-time low. And so just
Yeah.
making an election integrity, we can take
Yeah.
that narrative. Like, we can't surrender every single narrative to the Republicans. Like, oh, the Republicans say this, and if we say something bad, they're going to say something bad about us too. It's like, who cares what they're going to say? We know what they're
Yeah.
going to say. They're
And they don't care.
Yeah.
And they don't ever care what anybody's going to say about them. We have to take some of those tools out of their playbook. Yeah.
Well, just look like an example. When Charlie Kirk got killed at that school shooting, which Republicans refused to ever do anything about school shootings, Charlie Kirk got murdered. People lost their jobs because they're like, actually, here's something that Charlie Kirk said. He's a jerk. Mueller passes away, and look at what the president puts out. This awful statement. And it's like, he doesn't lose his job. All the people that are criticizing, that are like celebrating the death of Mueller, there's just nothing said. So that disparity is a major issue here, where like Democrats just surrender all the power on basically any narrative. And what I'm finding when I interview these progressive candidates, those are people who are willing to fight. Those are people who are willing to listen to common sense. You talk to Hakeem Jeffries and he just retreats. Well, I can't say that because they'll say I'm against law enforcement. Who cares what they're going to say? Stand up for the people that you said you were going to represent.
Right. That's what I fundamentally don't get. It's like they forgot their job as soon as they get there. You're there as a representative of all the people. What I think is another thing, along with what you're doing and interviewing candidates and bringing light to campaigns that may not get as much traction, is I think all of us creators on here need to be present on election day. I saw a woman from Texas, a Black woman, make a video on TikTok, and she said, so me and one of my friends, we wanted to vote and we went together. We rode in the same car, but we live in different districts, right? So I go with her to drop her off, and she goes into this nice building, and I walk up to the door with her so I can see inside. Half the building is empty, and they have racks of voting machines, just racks and racks and racks. It's a predominantly white district.
Yeah.
So they have a fully staffed, fully equipped voting center. And she said, so my friend voted and she got in the car and we drive over to my district. I have to stand in line in the predominantly Black district. I have to stand in line. I get inside the building and I see that there's one line of voting machine. How is this still happening? In 2026, how is this still happening? So we need to be on site at these elections to point this out as well.
Absolutely. And another big issue there is because the second Tallarico wins, if you start pointing out these problems with the interference in Dallas, people are like, well, you have to rally behind the Democrat that won. You have to rally behind. So they instantly pivot to this. And I'm like, these issues are going to remain in the general. They are not going to go away. And just because your candidate that you wanted to get in managed to benefit from the GOP voter interference, that's still going to come back and bite you in the butt when the general happens. So we have to have those conversations, and this is why we need to exert pressure on our Democratic representatives to defend our vote. And they, for some reason, they're just capitulating on this, even though the guy who is currently in office was convicted of voter fraud in 2016. That's his 34 felony counts of business fraud related to voter interference. He was under indictment for voter interference in 2020. And now the one time where he had to win an election, otherwise he was going to go to jail. You're telling me the one honest thing he did in his whole life was the election of 2024? And I'm somehow like the fringe conspiracy theorist for pointing these things out like this. And I recognize that, there is this established narrative that we're not allowed to talk about these things, but that's what we have to dismantle, because unless we dismantle that, they're going to just keep stealing elections.
Yeah. And we have to keep talking to the MAGA who have left, those who are in exodus, sort of leaving. And we have to talk to them about all of this, about the way that they've been lied to and misled. And also, I wish I had a copy. I didn't receive it at my house. But so in Virginia, a whole lot of voters got a vote no on the gerrymandering, got a vote no mailer that was made to look like it was from the left. It had civil rights on the front, and it said they're trying to take away our right to vote, as if implying we were talking about Black Americans. So I just got this one. This was the answer. Boy. Yeah. So they got Barack to come out and do a mailer telling the truth. But when you have to go, I feel like when Barack comes in, it's a big deal. Like if Obama gets involved, it's tough. So we're here in Virginia, we're battling such a misinformation campaign around this gerrymandering issue. That's going to be April, the first week of April, I think, is when voting closes on that. Yeah. And we're still daily having conversations with people and helping them to understand what it means to vote yes. Because again, we get in these complicated situations. Conservatives put us in a complicated position. Yeah. I don't think anybody on the face of it is crazy about gerrymandering. Nobody. Okay. But when you have Texas do something as egregious as they did and gerrymander to the amount that they did, and we are in a place to fight back against that, then you have to have two layers of conversations about what you're voting yes or no on, and what gerrymandering means, and why, yes, usually we're against it, but in this condition, it's a complicated issue. Yes. And voters don't like complicated issues. So I'm a bit nervous about this vote here in Virginia because of the massive amounts of money that's been put into this misinformation campaign. When you talk about having big money like this, it goes, we're fighting this huge beast when we talk about these grassroots campaigns. How much would you say, like a candidate like Francesca Hong, how much are they really having to spend on a campaign?
Yeah, I mean, and that's really because our side, when you complain, it's like we're the grassroots groups, and it's like, but we still have to send $20 to Francesca Hong, and she either matches the amount to like the ACLU or something. She takes that donation money and uses it for good. But it's just sort of like, they always use these dishonest arguments. Well, Bernie Sanders is worth this much. It's like Bernie Sanders wrote a book after he's how old is he now? 80 years old. So it's like at his age, making $175,000 a year, whatever they make in the Senate, it's probably more than that. You're going to be fairly well off. But then they use everything to undermine, like what he supposedly stands for. But we have to fight those narratives. And they are dishonest narratives. Human beings do have a tremendous capacity for just like tuning out lies. We know that from watching television advertisements. When you're watching the television, it's like, well, that's all BS. Your brain just knows it because we've seen all these lies. So on the one hand, that's why the right has to overspend, and they have to use more and more deceitful tactics. The other problem is, and what you're doing is wonderful, just telling people, you guys got to be out there for this election, somebody that people trust. But I would like to see more like Obama should be interviewing you, right? He gets a lot more if he were to jump onto my podcast for 10 minutes and just, okay, great. And now from here, I'm able to elevate all these other candidates. And that applies to Pete Buttigieg. It applies to, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like everybody. Just take a few minutes. And they keep saying, it's like, we need a Joe Rogan of the left. Well, no, you don't, because that guy's an ignorant tool. I mean, everything he says is just nonsense. It makes me sick listening to him. But don't go on to his podcast, please, because we keep seeing Democrats going on to podcasts like that. Don't elevate people like Steve Bannon. Don't invite him onto your podcast, Gavin Newsom. Instead, invite me on. And then I can use the power of the greater notoriety so that when I'm interviewing progressive candidates that are down the ballot, and we can create this messaging mechanism that combats, because we don't need all the money that the right has, because they're trying to promote a lie. You can promote the truth. Like, all you have to do is say the truth. I learned this when I was teaching. When I was a high school teacher, you'd stand in front of the class. You'd be like, okay, this is the BS I'm supposed to tell them. You start telling them the kids are unruly. When I made the decision, it's like, all right, I'm going to be real with them. I only had to make that decision in my mind, and they would see the change in my demeanor and instantly behave. It's a weird thing. And like, okay, this is it. Then you say it, and they instantly are captivated with every word. And that's what's going to save us. That's where my hope is. Because it's like Abraham Lincoln said, you can't fool all the people all the time. And that remains true even now with all the complexities of technology. But it would be nice if the Democratic Party would get their head out of their ass and start helping the people that are doing their work for them,
Yeah. It's hard to feel at this point. Like I just am at a point with the Democratic Party that it's hard to feel there. It's kind of hard to feel like you guys, if you peeled off your skin, you're not just like, maybe Strom Thurmond is still alive and he's just like wearing Hakeem Jeffries as a suit. I don't know. because it's crazy to watch these Democrats bend every which way to avoid saying the word fascism, to avoid saying the word authoritarianism, to avoid acknowledging the very real place that we're at. And my fear is that if you don't have the guts to stand up against what has happened so far, my fear going forward, I don't understand how you gut all these federal institutions, particularly ones like the USDA, without horrible ramifications. And I don't think we've even begun. We're at the very beginning of an agricultural season now, where we've had hundreds of thousands of those workers deported or in detention right now. Dozens of small farms have closed through this month alone, just in March. And something that I didn't really realize, and this is so not good, is that the Strait of Hormuz doesn't just control oil, it controls the ingredients for fertilizer. And this is planting season in most of the central part of the world that grows agricultural products. They're planting right now, so they would need that fertilizer right now. So the cost of fertilizer has already gone up and is increasingly just like the price of oil. So between the USDA being gutted and all those grants, small grants for every small throughout the country, the programs that helped bring food to schools and prisons and stuff like that, and kept small farms afloat, they've all been ended. And now you've got fertilizer at a choke point during planting season. So if our Democrats can't handle this, who is going to be truly standing up for us when the shit hits the fan, when food supplies are in dire straits? So that's the thing to me, is that the Democratic Party has utterly lost my faith, my patience, everything. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to vote for a party like a hardline party Democrat at this point. I'm looking for Democratic Socialists. I'm looking for somebody who's looking past where we are right now.
And I always say they're all in their gated communities. All these guys that have been in Congress for 200 years, and there's no regulation for social media because half of Congress doesn't know how to attach a document to an email, because that predates their education. So we've got that major problem, and it goes back to what we were saying before. They never talk to real people, and they insulate themselves. Like, the idea of them coming onto my podcast is just laughable to them. They wouldn't even consider that. And because they're all used to these pre-recorded questions, because when you're only telling lies all the time, Like they won't answer a question if they haven't quite figured out what the question is. They have their talking points. They want to pivot always. They don't answer a question. They pivot to talking points. And if you go and look at the interviews I've been doing with these progressive candidates, these are just like coffee shop conversations. It's just like, I just want to get to know this person. Let's have a conversation. And I'm mainly just asking them things like, gee, I don't feel safe because my wife is an immigrant. And I don't think it's right that we have this apparently federal force. Who are they? What assurance do we have that they're not hiring pedophiles? It's like, I don't want my taxpayer dollars to go to supporting pedophiles to then abduct a bunch of kids who then turn up pregnant at these concentration camps. And it's like these horrors. The Democrats, we had enough vote to fund ICE so that they have that money to do that. It's like, how about if you guys go spend a couple weeks in those concentration camps and see how nice it is? But then I say something like that, and it's me that seems to be out of line. But then, like it's ongoing where the Democrats say, well, we need to appeal to the moderate Republicans. And I say back, if you're going to appeal to Republicans, run as a Republican. You need to appeal to Democrats if you're going to run as a Democrat. And again, that's considered a radical point of view, but that's what we have to break down that structure. And we can. It's like the more Substack creators who start going out, and all you have to do is track down these. I have the whole list. I just published it today. Every interview I did, their Substack handle and their contact email. Go and contact them and say, hey, I'd like to interview you. That's there. I'll continue to add to that list. And they'll come out. They'll talk to you. And the more we can just get it out there. Emily Berge is doing very well in the district where I live, as opposed to the kind of Washington anointed candidate, Rebecca Cook. And she's just rising in prominence. And I think we can get these candidates, even if it's just one, if it's 10, that'd be a massive change moving forward.
Have you ever interviewed somebody where you got into it and you were like, oh shit, this person's nuts?
I haven't had that happen at all. The ones it's been actually, it's astonished me. Like the candidates. I mean, I haven't interviewed anybody on the right. But it's like every single one, half the time, like Francesca Hong, I wasn't done with my question and she was already giving the answer that I hoped for. And then she would astonish me with going even further than anything I could have hoped for. And this has happened multiple times with these candidates. That Chris Bennett, I interviewed him out of California. He looks like Clark Kent. He's like sitting there with it. I'm like, oh my God, this guy he's perfect. This is exactly what we need. And I talked to Ginger Murray. She's running in Wisconsin's 7th, I think it is. She's a lawyer and also brilliant, a fighter. She's willing to stand up and just protect. I appreciate all the women that I've talked to because I just have so much more faith in women like fighting back against this corruption of pedophiles that we have in our government. And so it's just, I feel so empowered to be helping these wonderful women run for office. I want to do everything I can to get them in office. And that's the only way to protect our kids is we get these wonderful new crop of representatives in there.
Do you think because they're women, they're having a more difficult time, or maybe that's why they weren't as embraced by
what's happening right now? Well, yeah. I mean, that's always an issue. The ones I've talked to, I think though we're at this, it's so hard to predict. We've been saying that, we keep going back to that. People are fed up, they're fed up. And I keep pushing back against the Democratic establishment. When they use a word like electability, I'm like, that's racism. You can't say things like that. You can't say it anymore. And we have to get, I keep saying like Blue MAGA, like James Carville. He has said, in my opinion, blatantly racist things. And he remains like a paid consultant of the Democratic Party. And it's like, you can't say you're trying to appeal to the black vote if you're paying a guy like James Carville. That is, and it's a lot of these entitled white people within the Democratic Party who have never talked to anybody in the black community. They're not aware of the damage that's going. And then they start in with their get over yourself BS, like Hillary Clinton said. The second she said that, it physically caused me pain. You can't say things like that and expect to win. And all of that kind of dialogue has to be purged from the Democratic Party. We got to get rid of Blue MAGA like Fetterman, who just all this time, he not only does he vote with the Republicans, whenever he gets on his platform, he starts espousing their BS and their propaganda. And we just have to fight back against it because a guy like that hurts Democrats all the way down to the county level. He makes it that much harder. He erodes that much trust. So we have to push back hard against things like that.
Yeah. And another thing in terms of how these candidates need to like represent themselves and everything, I was at my favorite coffee shop the other day, and we don't talk politics on a serious level. We always just make jokes and stuff about it. But I told him about when I lived in South Carolina, I knew a guy who works for Sig Sauer. He's a veteran, and he decided he was going to run for office. So he already had the Clark Kent like look, you know, he was like perfect. And the day he announced, this is what he did. This is how he announced. He jumped out of an airplane
Nice.
in a jumpsuit that was like the American flag. And then when he landed, he unzipped and he's in like the full business suit.
Nice.
And he announces his candidacy, and of course for the Republican Party, and of course they ate it up.
Yeah.
They ate it up and licked all the crumbs. Like they could not. It was so macho America. Like there was an eagle. It was crazy. But like that's what the right does. They do these like grand performative like, and their speeches and their talking points are all directly on brand. They are on brand all the time. When we interviewed Francesca, she was wearing a beanie and a hoodie.
Yeah.
And I was like, that looks like somebody I would trust, that I would talk to. And like more than anything, it's somebody that I think would genuinely understand the problems that I have, because she looks like one of my friends. And I think that Democrats need to stop like copying the GOP look and feel and all of that. And so they present kind of like GOP, and then they like say under their breath, but like abortion's cool, I guess.
Yeah.
But like you look like GOP, you smell like GOP. We need to just as assertively be like Francesca Hong. We need to be giving people a much more relatable vision of representation.
I think that's absolutely true. It depends though too, because I think a sincere Democrat could embrace patriotism. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, because I thought that's where you're going with that. So that's something that they could get away with. But the way that Democrats, exactly like you said, like this, like the AI rendering stuff with Gavin Newsom, I'm just sort of like, come on, it's like. I don't think we need to go there. It's like, why don't we? I know. Why don't you contract a real artist? I interviewed Haley Claire Weems, Marlon Weems's daughter, who's just a brilliant artist.
She is.
And it's like, have her do here's art. You got these crappy AI renderings. We've got art. We've got something good. But it's like you can outdo them in a way that retains your identity, I think. But like Francesca's just so great, and just her use of the F-bomb, she drops it all the time. It was making me laugh, and it was just everything that she does is it's so authentic. And that's the thing. It's the real problem is like the blue MAGA, everybody can smell inauthenticity, authenticity a mile away. When you get an authentic person, and whether they're doing like some big showmanship jumping out of the thing, or whether it's sitting with a beanie cap on, as long as you're authentic about this is what I really am standing for, that does generate. But too much of the blue MAGA, whereas all the money is, they deliberately turn off the faucet of support for those ones, the grassroots movements they can't control, they stifle. And that's our big problem.
It is, when you look back through, I'm a big historic nerd, so I like reading old historic documents, and especially letters, because they reveal a more personal, like recognizable side to people, even if they're using older language. People get into beef with each other and drama and all this. But when you look at the type of people that were in politics, they were very as well educated because they were a farmer. But they brought forth important issues about agriculture that mattered. They didn't need to have an Ivy League education, or maybe much of an education at all, when you're talking about some of the founding fathers, some of the first politicians, especially campaign years. And I feel like as much as we've put money, all the fucking money that goes into campaigning, and it's like the more money that goes into it, the further you get from reality altogether. And the other issue is, this is a sensitive issue, and people have big feelings all around it, as they should. But when you have real people like Graham Plattner, real people have skeletons and have complications and have issues. And I know for a fact that I know great people who would be great in public service, but they've got a nasty divorce in their history, or they were arrested for a DUI like 20 years ago. And because of the way our campaign structure is set up to dig up all that dirt and to just smear people, it keeps so many real people from running that I almost think that we need some sort of campaign reform that, like, hey, unless somebody is a pedophile or they've committed a crime that would be directly related to holding office, there's a limit on how much you can dig into someone's past. A divorce is none of your business. Like it doesn't matter. Half of us are divorced anyway. Like over 50% of Americans are divorced. How is that not grasped? So the idea that we have to put forth, especially on the Democrat side, we have to put forth the perfect candidate, the absolute. Now, Donald Trump got where he is, as flawed as he is, but Democrats have to be perfect. We still, even after Trump has gotten in, even after we've seen the very flawed people that get in office, Lauren Boebert worked at McDonald's. I can't. I just can't. But Democrats have to be perfect. They have to be the perfect candidate. They can't have any skeletons in their background. And, you know, I met Graham Plattner in DC after I was leaving a march, and he was literally on a street corner in a hoodie, looking lost with a map. I swear to God, it was excellent. And I shook his hand, but I was thinking, like, we have to be able to have a reasonable measure when it comes to if we want people to really represent us. Most people in America have flawed, imperfect lives.
Yeah, that would have been an opportunity to invite him onto your podcast. You should have presented yourself.
I was totally exhausted. Like I had just marched this whole march and I was exhausted.
But I think though a lot of this anointed candidate thing, I mean, I think a lot of it comes from Blue MAGA again, where they determine which candidates they decide in advance. Like it's Washington D.C. Democrats who say, "Oh, this person could never win in that district," and so they start that narrative because this person, they're not serious enough. They showed up for an interview in a beanie cap, so we're going to put all of our money behind this other person. So a lot of that is, you know, the call is coming from inside the house, you know, and it's because it's a threat. Like these real people, you know, who don't necessarily have, you know, the big money degree, but who nevertheless are willing to say, hey, if we change the budget here and there, we can actually solve these problems. I mean, we've been seeing that with Mamdani, where it was a meme somebody shared, where like, how come the Democrats can't do this? And they're like, you infant, don't you know that it takes years and years and years? And Mamdani gets in, it's like, oh, that's solved. Oh, that's solved. Because they can't solve it, you know? And it's like, so a lot of it is the messaging from the Blue MAGA that they like to organize. They're content to lose these elections because what they don't want is to get a candidate in office that they can't control, you know, and that they really
unpredictable.
They dislike Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and they've been trying to put obstacles in. I mean, they'll take your donation money to the DNC and use it to put obstacles in front of AOC, even as some seats in states red, you know, politicians can run unopposed. You know, and it's like, why are they wasting money obstructing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez when they could strengthen their political standing? And we're just not allowed to talk about that. And that's another big issue. And so, it really comes down to exactly what you were saying before, more community engagement, which again, by saying we don't want primaries, the establishment Democrats, they destroy the community engagement. They pretend like all these things can't happen. The more we're engaged, the more we're aware of what elections are going on, we can and the more that like the established ones or people with a huge following interview people like me, and then they interview these up and coming candidates so that people are talking about it. Because that interview with Francesca Hong and with Emily Berge, all these interviews have been really fun. They're actually like entertaining, you know, and it's like, that's what the kind of politics we can have. And so it's like, as individual people make the choice to say, look, we're sick of the system as it is now. Just try something different. And I keep saying, even if you're a Republican, just vote out the incumbent, you know, like just somebody new has got to be better than what we have.
Yeah. I'm always surprised by, you know, just getting the information out. It's surprising to me every single day how
Mm.
many people in my city
Oh gosh.
aren't
Yeah.
aware of things going on in our own city. And so when we went to, I went and spoke to city council last week, and I mentioned in my speech, because I know that nobody knows, that Norfolk PD is now using drones. And they didn't announce that. Just like when they put the flat cameras up, there was no public announcement, no period for public comment, nothing.
Yeah.
Overnight, these cameras went up. And in the same way, we've got drones now flying, surveilling our
Yeah.
public without public knowledge. So I said that in my, little 3 minutes at city council. And not only did I have people after the fact that were, other people sitting in the audience, like, what are you talking about? The school board member that I talked about earlier was there that night. And she was like, what are you talking about? Drones. And like,
Yeah.
you work for the city. It's crazy that people don't even know what's going on in their own backyards. So we talk about these big elections for governor's races and senator races, but your
Yeah.
quality of life, your direct quality of life is determined by your city council and by your school board
Absolutely.
and by your very, very local politicians. We've seen that here in Norfolk.
Yes.
I hate to say it, but I've seen Norfolk just do a really big slide in the last 20 years. And it really, to me, boils down to having a city council that is disinterested and
Yes.
disengaged. And a lot of them are small business owners that just love deals that happen to bring their business
Yep.
money, but may not be what's best for the city as a whole. So getting people to those hyper local, to the city
Yes.
council. Do you know who's on your city council? And do you know the politics of the people on your city council? What is the importance of that to you?
Oh gosh, I was talking with Lisa Hamlin, or Hamline. She's a Democratic organizer in Texas and doing great work. And we talked for like an hour, and she said the same thing. She's like, "Forget about the Senate, forget about Congress. It's all that lower stuff." And yeah, it's the city council members. That's how you make sure you have fair elections in your community. It's like
Yep.
all those roles. And yeah, exactly like you said. I was when I've been interviewing Ginger Murray and I interviewed Chris Armstrong, these are two congressional candidates for the same district, and they're like doing a cooperative campaign. And I'm just like, that's great. It's like, we just want to beat the Republican. It's like, we're all going to be buddies. Who cares who wins? We're going to be buddies. We're going to talk about these things. We're going to canvass together. And I said, great. And when this is over, one of you will have won. The other two run for a school board or run for something. It's like, you've got name recognition now. So do that. And what we've seen, what's been abundantly clear is it's like they don't pay much. And I mean, like Francesca Hong says that she can't make enough money to survive. And that's by design. So they get these people that are sponsored from this big money, and hate ideology is up to its eyeballs in money. They still have the profits from the slave era and from burning women at the stake and seizing their property. So they've just got fortunes. They're able to fund people who have no talent whatsoever, like Joe Rogan, like Charlie Kirk. They have an unlimited amount of money. And what we see on the local level is they get these people who are blatant white supremacists who then have enough money to run for school board, and they don't have anything better to do. So whatever a school board position pays, a couple grand probably, they're happy to do it because they have nothing important in their life. Whereas a lot of people on the left, you got doctors and lawyers, you got educated people with college degrees, they don't necessarily think to run for school board because they're like, well, that's kind of, I got other things I can do that are more important. Nothing is more important than school board, because the next thing you know, they're banning all the books. They're teaching the lost cause as if it's real history. They're trying to elevate Confederate statues. They're burning books in the library, and your kids are indoctrinated. And we allow the white supremacists to completely take over because we disregard those smaller roles that we think are beneath us. And that's really the shame of left-thinking people. We have to be involved on the basic community level, just like you were saying.
I feel like in the 90s, there was Rock the Vote, and there was also it was very MTV oriented. There was a push that sort of made getting involved in local politics sexy and cool, and we were absolutely encouraged to vote. And now Gen Z is, I didn't think anybody could get more nihilistic than Gen X, but they did. They sure did. I mean, it's totally crazy to me. And they
Oh,
feel completely left behind and unheard by
yeah.
the system. And these kids are not entirely dumb. I will say that the public education system has failed them, particularly with
Yeah.
COVID and beyond
Yeah.
COVID, and the catch up period, or what was supposed to be a catch up period, has not been that. And so, from an education standpoint, but at the same time, these kids have more access to information in the palm of their hand than we ever did. And the
Yeah.
ones who are naturally smart and intelligent and inquisitive already know about politics. They've already done their online research. They can find all that at just at their fingertips. And we're seeing kids that are saying, we're done with the whole, we don't want Democrats, we don't want Republicans, we
Yeah.
don't want a two-party system. This is dumb. Who thought
Yeah.
of it? We just want something completely different. And so if we aren't able to turn this around in the next, few
Oh, you
years,
got
half
turned
a
sideways.
decade. Oh, did I? Sometimes it does that.
Oh,
It's like, hello,
there it goes. It's back. Yeah.
there it is. Then they're just not going to vote at all.
Yeah, I mean, the young people, it's been propaganda media, and then just the influence of social media has been just so terribly toxic. The bots, and I think about this a lot. I'm sure you're kind of in the same mindset as I am, because I've seen so many like just bot comments that I can tell in like a word or two. It's like, this is of non-human origin.
Yeah.
But it's like the tactics that they've used, where I'll write an article and then it'll get flooded. It's what's, I feel like Sherlock Holmes lately, because when I write something that gets a lot of bot attention, it's like, okay, the oligarchs are trying to tell me that this is a threat to them. So this is something I need to explore. And so it does the opposite, but it's like, yeah, somebody who has not spent as much time with social media as I have, or with handling comments like I have, but I have seen that my kids, like a song came on the radio and they're like AI and turn the channel, and I'm like, okay, I guess they've and it's evolutionary, we get
they
to a
can
point where it's
identify
like, this is a threat, and like I said before, when I hear a commercial come on, it's like, oh, that's trying to sell me something. You there's certain text messages and emails you get, you're like, this is fake. So people do develop an ability to that. Hopefully we'll see. Yeah, a third party would be great. We'll see what people do. But yeah, we have to do something. We have to dismantle this propaganda media. You're seeing an impulse. That's why people are coming to Substack. It would be nice if people with a little bit more money would start elevating voices like mine, because I keep getting algorithmic erosion. They try to suppress my content every chance they get. As I was talking with somebody, it's not quite like they're showing up at my house and putting a black bag over my head and throwing me in the river, but they do try to censor me so that people can't hear what I have to say. And we have to keep elevating younger voices that can actually speak to these, help organize them to focus their frustration, which is totally reasonable. I'm frustrated too. And it's like, we just have to focus it and use it in a way where we can change society, because we do have that power. And the key is, a big part of it, for me at least, getting a lot of these progressive candidates involved. But even if they don't win, just having my narratives like stop billionaire welfare, stop. It's like, don't even talk about taxing billionaires. Just stop giving them free money. That is going to win in red districts. Why do I have to work hard and have my taxes get sent to some jerk so he can fund his pedophile island? I don't think that's right. Let's stop that. And that will win, no matter what party you're in, if you're speaking those words.
Yeah. I just hope we can get the Gen Z back. They're all so unbelievably disillusioned right now with good cause. I mean, we were the adults in charge during COVID, like collectively, and they just saw everything fall apart, like kind of in front of them, and thought that all the grown-ups that were grown-uppy enough would manage things, and they haven't. And so now you've got kids that are at the cusp of their young adulthood, 18, 19, 20. The job market is crashing everywhere. They can't get enough work, or enough work to move out of their parents' house, enough work to have any type of quality lifestyle. Or the option is to go into a lot of debt to go to college, which some of them don't see the point in that anyway, particularly given that a lot of these career fields are being snapped up by AI right now in real time. So I think that and a lot of these kids can vote. Gen Z is definitely voting age. So if we can activate Gen Z and appeal to their common sense, that could be a
Yeah.
powerful, powerful voting block. But we
Yeah.
have to earn their trust, and we
Yeah.
don't have it right now.
Well, that's why I think somebody like Francesca Hong could become a national candidate. Like she
Yes.
speaks exactly to them. It's like exactly. And
Yeah.
but I mean, these poor kids have had for what, half of their life. Like my children, MAGA has been shoved down their throat like for their whole life. And my kids being immigrant kids, being attacked for being immigrants their whole life. And it's just sort of like the disservice. And it's like I try to be like an example of like rational thinking at some point. You know, it's like what we could have, but I'm considered like extreme fringe, you know, kind of a viewpoint. And it's just like that's the influence of all this money that has been dumped into this hate ideology that has been so normalized. But again, when I talk to these candidates, I realize there's a lot of people that have a lot more energy and they're a lot smarter than me, and they are as angry as I am, and that's been good to see. And like I said, getting the chance to get to know you better over these couple of years, it's been a relief, you know. There's been hard days. It's just knowing you're there. It's like, oh, thank God, Melissa exists.
We're not alone. We're not alone. It is like it's been crazy to see. And I remember the first things that I read of yours on Medium, which were probably the first thing you read of mine on Medium, were more memoir and reflective and life stuff. And I told my husband the other day, I really want to get back to doing that. I want to be able to live in a society where I can write memoir and I can help others write memoir and publish their work.
Writing.
And right now we're all just focused dead on unraveling some of this gnarly mess, that political mess that we have found ourselves in.
Yeah. I mean, I hope we get the same bunk in the concentration camp. I hope we get to like be next to each other, you know.
I'll share my can of beans with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll take turns working on the concrete with our spoons.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This hour has flown by. It always does with you, Walter. Always does. Hold on. Yeah. I'm gonna put in the chat the link to Walter Rhein. And if you haven't subscribed, I don't know what you're doing, but you have to subscribe to Walter. Absolutely. And we're going to put Blue Amp Media in here too. Blue Amp has given us the platform to keep going. And where are we at here? There we go. And to get this word out to as many people as possible. They have been gracious enough to give me this platform and bring on the people that I brought on and keep having these conversations. Like, we have to push the needle forward, and we have to, power through. I feel like from here to November, we're in battle. We're in battle zone.
Well, I keep saying too, win or lose, we just have to go forward with integrity. Don't be results oriented. Just say the thing you need to be heard, you know. And too much of what's happened, we're in this point because we think we're not allowed to say the things that are bothering us, and we have to just get over that, because now's not the time for that. You know, after a school shooting or whatever, we can't talk about that now. We're talking about it now, and it's like you might as well go down fighting, and it's like the fight is all we got at this point. So just speak, people, and try to do what you can to elevate the voices of those progressive candidates. Share those interviews that I've done already, because the media isn't helping me. There's a lot of I've gone to do research on candidates. There's nothing. So I sent those interviews to every newspaper I have a list of all the newspapers in the state. They don't publish them. I'm like, just put this on there so people can see who this candidate is. So they deliberately suppress information that people need to vote for good people. And it's independent media that's going to change that. So thanks for being here. Thank you so much, Melissa. And
absolutely. Thank you for
giving me a platform today.
Thank you so much. And we are right at the end of the hour. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We got a big crew in here today. So everybody, go subscribe to Walter, subscribe to Blue Amp, subscribe to CounterStory Media. If you're not registered to vote, I'm not judging you.
Just be involved.
Just go get that done. And if you're a woman, make sure you got all your documents. Mine just came in the mail. The last document I need is here, so I can update my my passport. So you got to do what you got to do. They're fighting against us. They're suppressing, and the fight is all we have. Walter, I'm putting that on a t-shirt. The fight is all we have. I love that. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining the CounterStory Perspective, and tune in next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.